Welcome back to Built to Ship, the podcast where we go behind the scenes with founders and product leaders shipping real AI products into the world. I'm your host, Tyler Postal from Voker, and today I'm excited to be joined by Sanjeet, who leads AI features at Digits, an AI-powered accounting platform that's helping businesses turn their financial data into real-time insights and forecasts. Sanjeet, it's great to have you here.
Awesome. Excited to chat.
Amazing. Well, why don't we start a bit with your background? What were you doing before working at Digits, and tell us a bit about how you got involved there and what Digits' story is.
Yeah, definitely. So I've been in product for about a decade plus, mainly in startups across many different industries. I've worked in travel, I've worked in user research, worked in e-commerce. From the start, when I was working in my first startup, really got exposure into machine learning back before everything was called AI. So got to really work on pricing optimization, understanding preferences, in user research, understanding response analysis, how to actually comprehend analytics from a user research standpoint. And so at my second startup, we were doing a migration from spreadsheets to NetSuite. And that really got my my first exposure into the accounting world. And I just saw how broken the tech landscape is. So very interested in that space, and got to know Digits, understood their kind of philosophy and vision back then. And so as I've come into Digits, kind of what Digits does in our founding story, Digits is the first agentic general ledger. So we're an AI native accounting platform that helps you bring real-time finances as well as automated month-end close. And so our founder, Jeff Siebert, was a two-time exited founder. First worked at a startup acquired by Box, and then worked at Crashalytics, founded Crashalytics, which is takes mundane bug reports and helps you understand those, fix bugs through that system. From there, he went to Twitter, was head of product there. And throughout that experience, kind of also saw how broken the financial process is from a business owner standpoint. So really, Digits started as trying to fix the analytics problem for business owners. And as we've understood the problem more, we understood that the underlying data is broken. So you really need to fix the accounting platform itself. And so about a year, 2 years ago, we really announced our own ledger. So we've been building on top of QuickBooks for a while, and now we're actually competing against QuickBooks Zero as a AI native ledger.
Amazing. Well, there's a lot I'd love to dig into there. Maybe first would be just that decision to kind of build your own product. I could imagine there's a lot of good reasons for that, especially if you actually want to move fast in the AI space. But it's got to have been a big decision. What went into that, and how's it going so far?
Yeah, so I'd say for about 3 to 4 years, we were building on top of QuickBooks as an add-on, trying to transform the data from QuickBooks and make that understandable, be able to automatically categorize transactions, understand when a transaction needs to be reviewed by a client, etc. And there was an interesting inflection point, of course, 2 years ago, when OpenAI kind of announced all of their products. And I think at that point, folks started to understand the need to adopt AI. So there was an acceleration for us. People were hungry for an alternative and an AI native alternative in that. And so we were able to package all of the work that we had been doing for a while into an actual ledger product. And it was more mature because we had been building these features over time. So we were able to establish ourselves in the market quicker.
Amazing. Any key learnings that you've gotten that's different from how you developed product or created software before, now that you're pivoting to this agentic focus?
Yeah, I think so. One of the things that was a principle from when the company started was that we needed to automate the workflows, and to do that, we needed machine learning. So the product from the beginning was built for that purpose. Most of kind of the historic products are built on relational databases. So really good for semantic searches, but not for actually understanding transactions, the kind of similarity between them. So Digits is built on a vector database, a custom built vector database that still allows the speed of a relational database, but also allows us to build our own predictive models on top of that database. So we can understand if an Uber transaction is similar to a Lyft transaction, and both need to be categorized to transportation, for example. And so that really gives us a leg up on building on top of a very strong foundation that is built for AI.
Amazing. I'm sure you get this question a lot. We do for sure. As an AI native company that's really kind of gone all in on this, the question we get a lot is like, oh, why can't big companies compete with you that are kind of already in this space? For you guys, I'm sure it's QuickBooks. People are like, well, why don't they just slap on an AI feature? And having experience building things, I have my own opinions about why that's not easy. But I'm curious to hear from you. Like, what have you found has been easier, or have you been able to move faster since, stopping to build on top of QuickBooks, and why are you guys bullish on competing with them?
Yeah, so I think what I mentioned in terms of database structure, that's obvious leg up, allows us to build more natural features on top of that. And I think also culturally, you see this with most startups are able to move faster. And even internally, we see an interesting parallel between the accounting industry and software industry, where 95% of the mundane tasks are able to be automated. And so internally, we are also trying to leverage as much as possible to automate our engineering. So by the end of this year, next year, we'll start to get to those bounds where we're moving a lot faster. We're able to, for example, change our repository structure. We're able to adopt tools much faster than a large corporation can. And so we're able to ship much quicker. And I think high velocity is kind of the name of the game now, especially as foundational models are improving. People are able to build these products and platforms quicker. It's just all about velocity.
Definitely. Well, why don't we get into some of the features that you have in the product that are powered by AI? So you mentioned one already, I think, which is that similarity detection, which is kind of built off of the vector database. What are some other features that, maybe users see and interact with directly, or maybe are happening behind the scenes?
Yep, definitely. To expand on the categorization side of things, we're not only able to see similarity globally, but because of kind of the relational kind of vectors, the vector similarity, we're able to create this layer cake, which is very important in terms of the context of the business. So we're able to understand a single business's transactions. We're able to understand how an accounting firm kind of works across their practice. And we're also able to understand similarity globally. So we're able to use that layer cake to give each business the right context. So that's very important in terms of that feature. We've also kind of going down the accounting close process. You book the transactions, then you reconcile the transactions. And we've just released a automated reconciliation product, which pulls in bank statements, is able to OCR those bank statements, pull out the right information, and then actually match those transactions in the ledger to the statement. So we're able to automate that entire process end to end, and only kind of flag the issues that we see, and not only flag them, but also from more of a agentic standpoint, able to understand what types of actions should be taken on those issues. And at this point, kind of suggest those to accountants.
That's amazing. Yeah, I remember a couple startups ago, I was working in e-commerce, and our accounting team, their method for reconciliation every month was they would all stand up. There were 4 of them. They'd all stand up and they'd read off from their spreadsheets like the numbers they had in one place versus the other, and then they would like just out loud to each other. So this sounds like a much better process. What does the interaction pattern look like for these different features? Like, are users chatting with a bot for categorization? I assume maybe it happens automatically and then they get like either an approval or it's automatically updated. What have you guys tested, and what have you found is the best way to, leverage AI within the product, not always through chat or not always through, buttons?
100%. And for me personally, so I'm a product manager and a designer. So the entire user experience of this is very interesting to see how it evolves over time. Obviously, a lot of what we want to move towards is moving the accountant from a doer to a reviewer. So what that means is a lot of work is happening in the background, and issues are being then surfaced to them to kind of interact with, review, and action on. So things like categorization. If we book something, but we have low confidence or lower confidence on it, that's something will surface to the user, and then they can review it. Same thing with reconciliations. We'll surface those issues. There are other parts of our product that are more chatbot-like, especially in the analytics side of things, where a client might be working with our analysis, kind of financial analysis. Chatbot, they'll be able to ask questions and get real-time answers. So there's definitely a mix of how we surface kind of AI in the product. And over time, we're starting to build, and I'm working on a product right now that is going to really leverage an agent in multiple different areas of the workflow. So being able to automate the actual creation of rules or checks, and then be able to fix issues on its own, and then only surface the ones that are hard or need some extra context. And I think in general, it's interesting. I think we went through a wave of lots of chatbots. And I don't think that's the final interface. I think it is going to be a lot more contextual in a workflow type interface that folks are more accustomed to.
Yeah, definitely. I'm starting to see some interesting like interaction patterns that feel more evolved, and like, I mean, there's chatbots that just have like a blank screen and just chatting back and forth, and now there's more and more that have, like, to your point, context is important. So like, if it's a spreadsheet, maybe the spreadsheet's also on the side, or if you're editing a document, you're chatting and you can the document natively. Or if it's just a workflow where it's clicking an approval button, you don't need to chat to say yes or no. So it's great that you guys are exploring like the right sort of design pattern and interaction for the right workflow. Do you foresee any of, when it comes to this agent that you're working on right now, is it going to be, it sounds like it does most things in the background, and then when it needs, user assistance or escalation, then it'll ask, is it going to be, just sort of like buttons on a screen? Is there going to be a mix of that and chat? Or are you just going to try it out and figure out, as you go?
Yeah, so I think for a lot of things like issues, we have the concept of inbox, and that's evolving from things that you can imagine an email, which was person-to-person interaction. That's now evolving to bring in the agent, and the agent is interacting like a coworker that would bring up issues to you that need to be resolved. It gives you context on why it surfaced it, what do you need to think about, and then gives you actions to actually take on those issues. And so what I imagine it goes to is there's always going to be this traditional layer of SaaS, or at least interface, and that's purposefully built. And there's a layer on top of that that gives you the context and then routes you in the right area. Or even kind of what we're seeing with Claude and OpenAI nowadays is interfaces that are built custom in the moment based on the context. So I could definitely see it evolving into that.
Cool. Awesome. When it comes to building these features, like from an engineering perspective, what have been the biggest challenges? And how have you guys tackled those? Are there some that you still haven't
Yeah.
figured out?
Yeah, I think especially with agents and LLMs, there's a whole litter of problems with uh, it not being deterministic, and so how do you handle that? And I think it's really interesting now how important it is to be very use case driven when you're building these products, really getting deep into understanding first how you could see your customers using it and then building it with that in mind. And so that, for example, with the financial analysis that we built, uh, we it could do anything, but we can't let it do anything. So there definitely need to be guardrails on it, and understanding those use cases help us build those guardrails, and also help us understand what's our golden set of questions and answers so that we can test and evaluate on those. And then as we've done, we've started to also automate that evaluation as we change models or we add tools to it. So a lot of that is important as we're building this, and still also logging all of these interactions. So right now there's a tool that we're using called Phoenix that is very helpful in terms of logging all of these interactions, and that helps us not only debug, but then also helps us later analyze what are the use cases that we thought it was going to be and what is it now.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's a great product. I think Phoenix is an open source library by Arise AI, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely hear a lot about them and have met their head of product. Great guy. I think, it's not everyone's at the point that you guys are at where like they're in production and then you just start tracking these things. So it's great to hear like what's working well. When it comes to now, having these features in production and having now this logging and reviewing systems, changing models, seeing how the agent's getting better or worse over time, who is responsible for that right now at your company? Like, what are the types of roles that are involved? Because really early days in any technology, it's always like just the principal engineer is like prototyping something. And then over time, like product and other engineers, maybe analytics comes in. Who are you guys seeing today and how has that evolved over time? Who evaluates and improves and suggests and looks at how users are using the product?
Yeah, so I think it spans from the product team to the engineering team all across. The folks that are building these features, the engineers that are building these features, have a deep knowledge of what is the logic behind these agents. So definitely working in tandem between myself, the engineers, as well as our support team, because it's not only implicit kind of feedback that we need, it's explicit. So it could be thumbs down, thumbs up on our responses. It could be a customer writing in with an issue. So having that collaboration across the team really helps us understand what's going on and improving it.
That's great. And does everyone kind of live in the same tool or does everyone have like a different way of getting access to that information? How are you finding that, that challenge of like juggling, different folks having their own signals?
Yeah. So we're using Phoenix, and that I would say is more so on the engineering side. We also use Slack quite a bit to actually post events of what's happening, what are the customers doing, so that we kind of democratize that signal across the entire company. So everyone's able to understand what's going on, are able to chime in with feedback. And I think it's especially important because Digits has been unique in terms of how we built our company. We actually had an internal firm within Digits with real accountants working with real clients,
Oh, wow.
so that we could get that really incisive feedback and understand those workflows. And so we still have a small firm, a few clients, and we're able to talk to our internal accountants. They're able to give feedback on what they're seeing from customers. So we've really been able to democratize the kind of top level feedback, and then that starts to stream down to the product and engineering team.
Amazing. Maybe last question before we wrap up. For those who are like building agents and AI features into their products and about to get to production, what can you share around like usage, maybe things you did or didn't expect? I guess depending on the interaction pattern, people may not know they're interacting with AI just by using a certain workflow, but especially in the places where like users kind of have to opt into using it. What have you seen? Has it been, 90% of folks are trying things out and then later they're like getting skeptical, or is it the other way around? What are you seeing today?
Yeah, so I think there are two good examples on kind of the categorization side of things. There's kind of the magic in the background. The categorization's happening, but and users know it's AI, but it's not as apparent. Um, there is kind of implicit feedback that we get from them. Like if we categorize a transaction, but then a user changes it, we know that something went wrong, so we can use that feedback. And that's a place where like the user may not know that they're giving that feedback explicitly, but on a chatbot type interface, they are choosing to interact with it, and we've seen uh, pretty constant usage across that, kind of analyzing that week to week. And what we've seen is uh, the failure modes. And if someone hits a stumbling block, how do we solve that and then re-engage the user? And especially right when we released that, we were very like detailed every day, looking at the logs, understanding that. And then once we released a feature, like I think this is interesting in terms of users know what they know. So a lot of users were asking support type questions in the chatbot,
Mm-hmm.
but that is not necessarily what we built it for. But
Yeah.
as we built it, then there was kind of feedback to users. We had a newsletter. We started to reach out to them. And so then there was a way to bring them back into the experience.
Amazing. Yeah, that's one thing that's been really interesting to see. We've seen across our customers and other folks we've talked to is like users, maybe sometimes they need some help and guidance because they need to disassociate like the traditional chatbot, intelligent chatbot from these new capabilities. But once they start to realize what it can do, they start to like become power users over time and start to try out things that maybe you didn't even expect. Are you guys seeing that at all yet? Or is it, just starting when it comes to how people are using the bots?
Yeah, we definitely see power users now, and we see that in terms of our model, we're mostly working with accounting firms, and they are onboarding clients. So we see those users that are going from 0 to many dozens of clients very quickly. Those become our power users and are really the early adopters of the platform. And I would say in our space, the accounting industry it takes a lot of momentum to move.
Yeah.
So we're already seeing the people that are coming to Digits are the folks that want to implement AI into their workflows. So we're already seeing those early adopters that are from the get-go wanting to opt into these AI experiences. They want more of it.
Amazing. Well, I could keep asking you questions here. It's been fascinating to chat, but I want to put your website up on the screen, digits.com. Great domain you have. And yeah, maybe just share along with the audience, like who should check out Digits? How do they get in touch or follow along? Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So Digits is mainly a platform for small businesses. So folks that are on QuickBooks or Xero now, starting to move into NetSuite, that entire spectrum. So accounting firms that are interested, or even business owners themselves that don't have an accountant, you can get started by just clicking Get Started. At the top of the screen, you'll see the couple different pricing plans we have, and it only takes about 5 minutes to onboard onto Digits. So we're able to ingest all of your historical data, and you can get up and running. You can trial Digits. So we have a trial. that will let you experience the magic yourself.
Amazing. That's digis.com to get started and take a look at the trial. Sanjeet, it's great to have you on. Thanks for being so generous with your time and your insights. I'm sure this was helpful for everyone who's building systems to learn from what you guys have learned. So again, appreciate your time. For everyone out there listening, if you're building something, go ship it and see you next time.
Thanks.
Bye now.